Are you fearful to vote against the PAP?
Perhaps, yes, honestly, a little bit.
Why? Tell me why. What will happen to you? How would we know that you voted against us?
You know.
I think we all know the answer to that.
Can we just like...
No, let's pursue this because I'm afraid.
Yeah.
You tell me you've gone through O levels, A levels, university, working in 938 Live, and you're afraid if you vote against the PAP, something will happen to you?
Well, okay. First,
I think this is the impression that the PAP has created.
No, you are spreading that impression.
no, actually,
You can ask every one of us here.
And to that effect that there isn't a level playing field for the opposition in the terms of...
There is no level playing field of any government helping its opposition to win votes.
I think going back to the point where you said, how will the PAP know that who we voted for? What SM said just yesterday about the area realty park, I think, 60% of, if more than 60% of them vote for the PAP, they will get the upgrading. So how does the PAP know it's 60%? So how can the residents not be fearful that you actually check into...
No, we can guess from our campaigning and our house-to-house visits. But we won't know who comprises that 60%, right?
You don't need to know that to strike fear, though.
Come off it. You mean to tell me you are one of the 40% that voted against the PAP and something happens to you?
Well, I mean, I've never voted for that matter, but I mean, we talk to hundreds of voters, in the course of our work. And it's no comment or, if I vote against the PAP, I may...
Let's get down.
What are the hundreds of voters? You name the hundreds of voters. Oh, I can't name them. No, I name. You tell me who we have spoken to and they say we are afraid to vote. Well, a few weeks ago, Straits Times did a report.
We polled 100 voters.
No.
Mr. Lee.
Never mind the Straits Times poll. You made a statement just now. Look, I started life as a cross-examiner, right? You made a statement just now that I
spoke to 100 persons and they were all afraid. I said name them. Tell me who. Why should I name them all? Tell me. Just not I spoke to them.
Straits Times carried the poll. Did you carry out the poll?
I was one of the reporters.
No. Did you carry out the poll?
Yes, I did.
How did you carry out the poll?
We went out and we asked 100 voters what they thought.
How many voters did you ask?
Well, we had to get more than 100.
How many voters did you ask?
It was about 120.
You yourself personally?
I spoke to about 40.
Yeah. You spoke to 40. And did they tell you that you noted down their answers?
Yes, I do have most of their names, yeah. Some of them didn't want to identify themselves.
No. What did they tell you?
Well, they said, we asked them, who do you think will win? We're not asking you what your vote is, but, who do you think will win in this coming election? And some of them say, it's hard to say. Some of them say, I think Lau Tia Kiang still has, enough to hang on. And some just say, no, I better not say, otherwise...
So, when you say some of the 40, I better not say, you assume they're scared to tell you?
Yeah, because they say, it's not something that you can prove in a court of law, but it's something you can sense.
That is the point I'm saying. You are in the media, you are in the Straits Times, you are purveying an unnecessary falsehood. We have said categorically, the vote is secret. And you are going out as the Straits Times man. How many said we are afraid? They didn't tell you we were afraid. They just said, no, I don't want to say something. And on that you say, you started off with a statement, over 100 told you they were afraid.
No, I didn't say that.
You said that. It's on. Please. I haven't lost my memory. We can go back on the tape. As I told you, I allow my grandchildren to speak back to me. But from time to time, when they are out of bounds, I put them down. And when you make that statement without any evidence, I have to put it to you, get to the bottom of it. And you interviewed not 100, but 40. And a few of them said, oh, I'd rather not say. And therefore you assume they were afraid. How are they afraid? Because we terrify them. Isn't it your job to say there's nothing to be afraid? Are you afraid?
I met Lee Kuan Yew in 2006. I was barely into my first year as a newspaper reporter. In the 2 years before that, I'd been doing odd jobs in the UK as a camera assistant, sometimes as a busboy. Lee Kuan Yew, who was 83 at the time, had been through the Japanese occupation, taken on our British colonial masters, jailed hundreds of communist or pro-communist supporters, detained without trial a number of Catholics, and destroyed quite a number of his political opponents by suing them to bankruptcy. What the fuck was I thinking? The truth is, that meeting, that extract is from a TV dialogue that was run in 2006 before the general election. But that was the second meeting. My first meeting with him happened a few days earlier. We, a group of pre-vetted journalists and academics, were summoned to the Istana on a blistering weekday. After what felt like an interminable wait, we were shown into a large meeting room with a long table. And I remember it was freezing. The aircon had been turned down really low. We all sat on one side of that long table and then we waited. After a while, Lee Kuan Yew shuffled in with an army major, his principal private secretary, and took his seat opposite us. I was seated quite close to the middle, so he was quite close to me. He got the ball rolling. He said, I asked you here because I want to know what young Singaporeans think. I want to get to know you a little bit before we actually record the program. And I don't want you to be intimidated by me. I want you to speak your mind, he said. And then we got started, and the discussion lasted for more than 2 hours, actually. We talked about everything from GRCs to gerrymandering to the necessity of national service. A few of my peers suggested to Mr. Lee that what young Singaporeans really wanted was a little bit more freedom. Freedom of the press, freedom to gather, freedom of speech. And in short, we wanted less censorship and a little bit more space to express ourselves. At this point, Mr. Lee laughed an avuncular laugh and said, come on. Only a small group of you, 5 to 10% maybe, really care about issues like freedom of expression. Really, most people care about jobs, good schools, good hospitals, bread and butter issues. So that's what we're looking at. This is when I chimed in. I said, Mr. Lee, I think you're probably right that we're a very small group. But what if in 10 to 15 years we're not 5 to 10%? What if we're 15, 20, 25%? Also, are you saying that because we are 5 to 10% today, you're in a sense prepared to ignore our wants to let our vote go, as it were. An uncomfortable silence sort of settled on the room. And without shifting his gaze from me, he held up an open palm and said to his principal private secretary, "Hand me his file." He then asked me a barrage of personal questions. What do your parents do for a living? What kind of house do they live in? What do your siblings do? What did you study at university? I mean, at the time, I think I was trying to just keep calm. And I answered his questions. My dad was a retired pharmaceutical executive. My mom was the director of a trading company. My siblings were both at law school. I, perhaps the black sheep of the family, had read English at university. And I answered these questions calmly, but I completely forgot the question that I had asked him. So completely deflected the question. And although I seemed calm, I mean, believe you me, I was shitting myself in that chair. And then a few days later, we went on that program, and he sort of chastised me again, and I shat in my chair again. I mean, in April 2006, I was officially drowning in my own shit. I was too afraid and flabbergasted to say, "No, Mr. Lee, it's not the news media's job to tell people not to be afraid. It is the news media's job to simply report the news responsibly and tell people what's going on in their country and around the world." What happened after that dialogue was, I realized that meeting with Mr. Lee exemplified a lot of the relationship between the government and the press. And after 3 years, I decided that I couldn't do it anymore, and I quit. I was pissed off that, after 40 years of independence and 3 prime ministers and official promises to develop a more open society, that nothing had changed in terms of press freedom. I was also disappointed in myself that I hadn't had the patience and the stomach to stick it out, to develop a career as a reporter, and in fact, to change things. Instead, I turned to fiction. I became a filmmaker, and I went into it, I suppose, looking for less censorship, more freedom, and less fear.
Hey, what's up, yo? Put it there, huh? I'm Ken, the director.
Hi, I'm Vivian.
Hey, I'm sorry I couldn't make it for auditions, but you know what? When Lynn, my producer, said she hired someone called Vivian, I thought it was for the female lead, no? And then I saw your headshot, and I said to myself, wow, this guy, is he black? Or is it the lighting? All I can see are his teeth. Hey, but if it's true what they say about African men, then I can live with that, huh? Nigga? Huh?
I'm Indian.
What?
I'm Indian, not African.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, could have fooled me, man. I mean, you don't speak with a stupid accent, and you smell okay. With all that ghee the Indians like to put in your hair and your armpits and all that food you eat, curry, everything's so curry, it stinks up the breath, right? Anyway, can I see your cock? But I don't understand, you're Indian. I mean, don't you beat up your wife every night and fuck her while you're drunk or something?
Fucking asshole. You yellow skin, slitty eye, sister fucking, money grabbing, opium smoking son of a gambling addict! I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry. Manichiruma.
You just call me an asshole.
When you enter the film industry, you go in very, very idealistic and you're passionate, and but you realize soon enough that what you really need, apart from your own love for the craft and so on and so forth, is you need people who support you. You need financiers who believe in your work. You need distributors to distribute your work. And most importantly, you need an audience, a public who is curious, open to trying new things outside the usual fare of Hollywood blockbusters and Jack New movies. My producers were very resourceful, and they secured a limited commercial run for the film in early 2012. I was thrilled. I mean, for a short film to get a release in a cinema, I was very, very happy. And the premiere was set for October the 5th. It was a Friday, and I remember at about 6 o'clock, me and my wife Pam were getting ready and feeling pretty excited about the night ahead. Then there was a knock on the door. And I thought maybe it's the nice makcik in our neighborhood who sometimes goes around door to door selling biscuits and keropok. Or maybe it's an evangelist. Pam joked. She said, maybe it's the government who come here to ban your movie. Wives know everything. Because when I opened the door, there were two officials from the Board of Film Censors waiting there for me. They had in their hands a letter, because I suppose it must have been a really heavy letter if it takes two people to hand it over to me. In that letter, more or less, was the letter stated that once the premiere that night was over, my M18 license would be revoked. That was it. Pam and I was pretty upset. But what can you do, right? So we got into our car, we drove to Cathay Cine Leisure, we put on our game faces, we smiled, we accepted everybody's congratulations, but I couldn't really enjoy that first night. I was not able to celebrate, really. 2 days later, the film was officially banned. Apparently, someone had called the Media Development Authority, or MDA, to complain about the film's online trailer for its alleged racist content. And I said, hey, hang on, this is a racial satire. It's not a racist film. Surely you can't be taking the things that Adrian and Vadi are saying literally. But it kind of fell on deaf ears, and the film was banned. The thing is that it was quite a stressful period. I mean, we had to obviously mount a defense, an appeal, and try to get the film screened. Vadi, who played the porn actor, called me quite a few times during that period. He told me that he was receiving threats and messages of abuse on his phone and on his Facebook page, and he was being harassed by relatives. Soon after the ban, he switched careers, and as far as I'm aware, has never appeared in a film since then. Adrian Pang, who plays the racist pornographer, thankfully continues to play racist and obnoxious characters, sometimes in projects with me. So, yeah. As for me, I think, that was pretty low. Because say what you will about a ban promoting your film, increased publicity, and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, if your film is taken out of the market entirely, future investors may balk. I mean, this was my first film. It was my calling card. I was worried. Why would anyone invest in a future project of mine? As it turned out, our appeal was only partially successful. We were given a higher R21 rating, and I was ordered to make edits to the film. I was ordered to excise some of the dialogue from Adrian. But interestingly enough, I wasn't asked to excise any of Vadi's dialogue. So it would seem that Chinese racism is not acceptable, but Indian racism is a little bit more acceptable. I found that inconsistency deeply troubling. I still do. What's troubling about it was that it wasn't really ultimately the act of some repressive, authoritarian government, run by our new Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, the son of the terrifying founder of modern Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew. It wasn't them. You know who it was? It was you. It was the public. Because in the end, 20 out of 24 people who were in this public consultation panel brought in to watch the film voted to ban it. These include educators, business people, lawyers, and even people from the creative industries, sadly. I forgot to add that the board of an elite girls' school threatened to sue me for defamation. Yes, and bizarrely, the producer of an internet series also called me up threatening to sue me because I had stolen her idea. It would appear that racist satires, racial satires were suddenly hot on the market or something. When my new film, Unlucky Plaza, was screened at the Singapore International Film Festival this year, quite a number of people came up and congratulated me, which was very nice, of course, but they congratulated me for just getting the license to show the film. I mean, never mind the quality. It's almost as if not getting banned is in itself the height of artistic achievement. But I mean, jokes aside, what is the question that I ask myself today when I think of fear? Well, here's the thing. I'm no longer afraid of Lee Kuan Yew and the intimidation tactics, so to speak, of his government. I'm afraid of the average citizen. I'm afraid of the guy next door. And I think that's a pretty chilling thought. So, it's 2015, 50th anniversary of Singapore's independence, and a lot of you are going to be asked this year, what do you love about Singapore? But I'm going to take a leaf out of the book of Mr. Lee Kuan Yew and ask you, what do you fear? Because if you think about it, nobody feared or fretted over the future of Singapore more than Mr. Lee. I've told you what I fear. I've told my story. Now it's your turn. What do you fear? join the national conversation, post your comments. It wouldn't do to be complacent. Thank you very much.